Disc Golf Podcast, an average podcast for the average disc golfer. As always, I'm Evan Amstutz, joined by Kim Hatcher. We're happy you could join us. Kim, how are you doing today?
Great. Been super pumped. I'm super excited to finally announce it. I've been cracking jokes for the past couple weeks about Am Worlds, right? Just kind of like, hope my boss lets me go. Well, I finally worked up the enough courage and I wrote a whole script and everything. So I was like, okay, I just need to write this down, get it on my head. And I called him, and he's a busy guy. It's been chaos this whole year. So I was just worried about being rude. And I just finally was like, I feel like I've worked really hard this spring. I've traveled all across the country. Our numbers look great. And I was just wondering if I didn't need to be on location for our Space Coast World Series. And he's like, yeah, that's no problem. Go ahead and just let me know what days you want off. It's like, off? Yeah. I'll send you that email. So I can go to Worlds now. And I am so excited.
Woo, let's go, Kim.
Woo! So pumped. So now I've got less than a month to really get ready. The past month I've been recovering from an injury, which has been tough, but I've got a month to kind of just get my mental game back where it used to be. Remember to enjoy the game. And I feel like if I just do that, then everything else will fall in place. So that's my main focus, my main goal. Yesterday we went out, we goofed around, and it was nice. And Josh kept reminding me, he's like, okay, now throw a dumb shot. I was like, okay. So, it's been great. It's been good. What about you? How have you been?
Good. I spent Memorial Day weekend visiting family up in North Carolina. Played the Diavolo in Raleigh.
Great course. Love that course.
Yeah, I'd never played it before. I think that's this year top 100 course number 7 for me.
Yes.
Number 8. Yeah, number 8 this year. And it was incredible. I think that's probably a top 5 course. And I eagled a par 5 without a throw in. So that was a cool little accomplishment. I haven't done that before. Working a lot with Josh, Professor Disc Golf, on my power, and he's been able to help me out a lot. So to be able to throw 450-foot tee shot in the woods was pretty awesome. And then from there, it was a pretty routine shot for me for my approach, and that I've never had that happen before. I'm like, wow, okay, let's get this eagle. Let's get up and down from here for eagle.
That's awesome. Those are the best feelings in disc golf.
Yeah. So got that on camera, which is always fun too. And enjoyed Diavolo. It was also nice being in North Carolina. It was kind of a rainy weekend, but it's not Florida rain where the sky is just unloading. It was like a nice ambiance.
Ooh, like a low mood setting.
Yeah, if you set a noisemaker to rain, that's the kind of rain we were talking.
Ooh, okay.
So especially being in the woods playing disc golf, Morgan was like, this is really peaceful. I'm like, this is peaceful as
I like this.
Yeah. But we had a good time. It was nice seeing family and all that stuff as well. So enjoyed the vacation as a whole. It was not disc golf oriented, but still was able to sneak some disc golf in there, and only at one of the best disc golf courses on the planet. So
you got a good wife if you can go sneak off. And she came with you, right?
Yeah. Her brother plays a lot. Shout out, Alex. I'm sure you're listening to this at some point. Shout out. But he plays a lot. He's part of I think it's the Capital Area Disc Golf League, CADL. And so he was like, oh man, if we had more time, I'd take you here and here and here. I was like, well, let's reel it in here. But it was a good time.
That's awesome. We always joke, we're like, disc golf is fun. I love disc golf. Disc golf is great. And truly, there are some moments where you're like, wow, disc golf is great, when it's not the sarcasm.
Yeah. When it's not a disc golf is fun, I'm having a good time. Disc golf is fun, I'm having a good time.
Yeah, just that constant reminder.
Yes. And I was also able to rep my disc shop jersey, or my jersey with Team Disc Shop on it. So spreading the good word of my sponsor as well as sponsor for this show.
Woo!
if you want to get awesome discs, you can go check out the disc shop, thediscshop.com. Get 10% off.
If you use our code MDGPOD.
And Kim, what do we always say?
If it's on sale, it feels better.
It does feel better. So go use that code, support us, support the disc shop. You can use that code online or tell them you're a listener when you're in store and they'll help you out. These guys are great. We actually interviewed them. Oh, what episode number was that? It's about a year ago. So
yeah.
Someone do the math for me. You can find that back in the archives and
the archival footage.
Exactly. Hear what those guys have to say. They're awesome.
Oh, yeah, they're so awesome.
Go support them.
And they're super visible and on transparent, I guess is the word, on their Facebook page. Like if you comment on a post, they will let you know if they are getting something in or if they have something, and they'll just keep you updated, period. Like I think the website went down a little bit and they just immediately went on their Facebook and was like, hey, like this is what's going on. Here's when we'll update you, like just super letting us know, which is extremely nice, especially when you're dealing with technology.
Yeah, it's great when you have someone that is that transparent about business operation, business. Like they just care about the customers, and it really shows. And I think our guest today emulates that perfectly. We'll get to that in a little bit. Ooh. After we go through our Hoffy's heater.
Woo-hoo.
For those who don't know, Hoffy's heaters are brought to you by Spikeheiser Dyes. This is where our social media manager, Matt Hoffman, gives his hot takes on things that nobody else is talking about, maybe for a good reason.
Probably.
This week's Hoffy's heater, we're going to be talking about something that I have just become more and more focused. Now, as a team ambassador and as someone who is always there to grow the sport, I love seeing parks full of people. I love seeing every hole having a group of players on it. I love seeing new people out there and enjoying the game. But you gotta understand the ability to let people play through. It's not a pride thing. It's not an ego thing. It doesn't matter that they're better than you. It allows us to keep the courses moving. Backups are one of the hardest parts of our game. Seeing a twosome get stuck behind a sixsome, seeing a foursome get stuck behind a slower foursome. Understand and work with the players around you to understand that you are playing slow and that it's okay to let a player play through you. Josh and I recently just played Four Palms, and we got stuck behind a couple of different groups who every time we got up to the box with them would look at us, kind of scoff, and then move on. And it was really frustrating to be behind, knowing that we were doing, the two of us were playing faster than a foursome, playing from the longer pads. And so we want to make sure that we are sitting there building and understanding that it is okay to let players play through. It's okay. It does not mean you are a bad player. It does not mean anything against you as a personal player, but just let people play through. I will always let people play through. I will always let people who are moving faster than me play through. It does not mean you are any less of a player. So make sure that you are able to let players play through. Hoffy out.
Oh, wow. Look at him. I didn't even have to cut him off. That was under 90 seconds. I'm proud of him.
I'm such a proud mom. Look at him.
Yeah, I agree with him entirely. It's frustrating if you get stuck behind people. And I've also found that if you let people through, it generally can strike up some good conversation, spread the good word. Tell a lot of the times you're either going to run into a friend that you're letting through or someone who doesn't know about the local league, and then you can tell them about the local league and all that sort of stuff. That's how I found out about my local league, is I was burning through the course, playing terribly, but playing quickly. And someone let me through and they're like, hey, do you play on Sundays at league? I was like, what's a league? What are you talking about?
What's a league?
Who are you people? And so that is how a lot of this started, was someone let me through and chatted me up. So if you run into people who aren't letting you through, like they're a newer group and you can tell that they don't exactly know, just kindly inform them that, hey, good etiquette is to let people through, all that sort of stuff. And that is definitely tricky. I am someone who has a little bit of social anxiety. This is why I do a podcast and not any sort of live in person.
We should do a live one. That would be fun. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, no, that's never going to happen. I won't be able to quack people out. But it's weird to like interact like that and say, hey, you should probably be letting people through. But also people might not know.
Okay, I agree. Let me play devil's advocate here a little bit. I agree with them, but I also do see that sometimes letting someone pass is not annoying, but you could be letting someone pass on a hole that like you just kind of want to get through. You don't really want to wait for someone to throw, and or you don't want to deal with anybody that day, which is okay. Like we all have our social tendencies and everything. So I get it. It's just hard. I get it. But in my brain, when I'm letting you pass, like I also have to hit stuff. Like you can't be teeing off on the hole behind me. Like you have to be basically putting out while we got to the tee pad. And then I'm like, oh, okay, we got to pause. Like maybe sometimes that might be rude, but like we'll let you through, but you got to get like pretty close to us. So almost like keep playing your pace, and if they're finally behind you, then like what you Hoffy said about him and Josh, like if the guys are literally on the tee pad with you and you're still teeing off, let them play through. They're not going to steal your discs, just let them play through.
That is where I have a rule of if I've been on the tee box with you 2 separate times and you have not let me through, the next time I'm saying, hey, can you let me through?
Yeah.
Because at that point, you know that I'm there. We made eye contact. I probably said, hey, how's it going? And you like awkwardly look at your feet and try to ignore that I exist.
Yeah.
That is where it gets really frustrating. Because I think a lot of the times when you don't get let through, people don't know. What's really irritating is when you know the people and they know better.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think, Coffee, I think you did pretty good on this one.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Proud of you for making your time limit, and proud of you for your point. We didn't have any Discraft hate this week.
Oh gosh, yeah. Thank goodness.
But Kim, have you ever wondered how the discs are made and all of that stuff, how they come up with new molds?
Honestly, all the time. That's just how my brain works. And especially when it comes down to like flight numbers, I'm always trying to figure out how the heck they do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get someone on who knows a thing or two about manufacturing discs, running a business, and just generally all around great person?
I'm in. Let's bring them on.
This week, we're excited to have on Josh Jones, owner, founder of AGL Discs. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Living the dream.
Podcasting, that's Kim's dream.
You know me.
So Josh, typical podcast question. How'd you get into disc golf?
So some friends invited me for a hike, and it just entailed so much more, you know?
Yeah. The whole hiking with a purpose.
Yes. I definitely am not one to play sports. I have asthma and COPD, so I can't run a mile. I don't think I've ever ran a mile in my whole life. So it was one of the few sports that kind of appealed to me in that aspect, where I could get some physical, exercise and physical exertion, but not putting yourself out too much.
Yeah. How long have you been playing now?
Close to 20 years, probably about 18, 19 years.
Okay. So you're pushing the OG status.
I would think so, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm an old fart.
And now you are owner, I guess, part owner of AGL and founder.
Yes. So we have just one other owner, which is Sam. I think you guys spoke to him on a previous podcast.
Yeah, one of our first interviews.
There you go. Yeah, Sam Chainbang. He is the owner of Chainbang Clothing and Apparel for disc golf. And, he and I met through social media, and he just does really, really well. The way that he thinks about social media and marketing is just different than others. and he just has a really unique way of looking at things. So I gave him a task, and he exceeded that task, and the end result was us becoming partners, and so Sam now has a small percentage ownership of the business, but he runs all our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it.
TikTok.
Yes, yeah, we do have a TikTok.
Yeah. Oh, you do? That was a joke, but okay, that's cool.
Yeah, no, we do. We have a TikTok. Yeah.
All the hot stamping.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I don't know if we get too much into hot stamping on TikTok. We probably should. I think that's one area in which I found was kind of an untapped market on the YouTube, and that's how you can tell how old I am when I say the YouTube. But yeah, no, and that's what a lot of people started asking me questions on how do you stamp, and how do you do those kinds of stamps, or how do you stamp just this type of plastic or that type of plastic. So we started a YouTube where we actually have been kind of giving away that information, which has been pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. You went on a hike and you got into this obsession that is disc golf, but why start a disc golf company? Why go, I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to make my own stuff. Like, why?
I think, any consumer of any product, you start to notice maybe the quality of that product over time may start to either deteriorate, or, the quality from that company just might not be coming out as good as it used to. And so some of the companies that I grew up throwing and playing, they just weren't necessarily the same as if I went and bought a brand new one, or if I bought two brand new ones, they weren't necessarily flying the same. And so I started going down that rabbit hole of why do they do that? Why does that happen? What's making that happen? And I just wanted to make one myself, and I figured it can't be that hard. Little did I know.
It can't be that hard. I just make my own.
Yeah, exactly. So now probably $1 million into it, and it's pretty hard.
We're having so much fun. We were having so much fun.
It's fun. I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest thing you learned in starting a disc golf company, or specifically manufacturer?
I think just in life too, is that you're gonna make mistakes. You have to learn to take that big, that ego hat off. You're gonna be humbled by a lot of things throughout the process of starting a business. Creating a product from scratch, creating a mold from scratch. Prior to creating the product. So I think there's a lot of things, that intricate parts that go in. You will stumble, you'll make some mistakes. We made many of mistakes throughout the years. And I think it's how you handle those mistakes and react to them. And we've thankfully been able to overcome them, and, use them to our advantage as a learning experience, and go from there. So I think that's what's, really unique about our business. And I think why AGL has continued to succeed. And I'm very, proud of the success. And, thankfully we have such an amazing team that, actually likes our products as well. Like our fans and our community and our customers, they like our products. That's key. And having good customer service, and, being quick, and having integrity, doing what we say we're going to do. And we pack orders, we ship them out, as soon as possible. So I think we amaze some of our customers with how fast we get our shipments out. So.
Yeah, full transparency for those who are new. I am on Team AGL, and that is one of the attractive things about being on the team, is how transparent Josh always is. At least once a week, for the most part, he's getting on Facebook Live on the fan page, showing us new stuff, telling us like what's going on. Hey, this disc came in, but had to send it back because this run, for whatever reason, had chunk in it, or these are going to be X outs, we're putting in an order, all that sort of stuff. And stuff you don't really see from other manufacturers.
Yeah, we don't really get that on the underground team. Like we do and we don't, but it's more of like we have people that in line. It's really awesome that Josh, like you're kind of available like right on the front lines for anybody to access, which is really cool.
Well, thank you. The cell phone or the phone number that's on our website and it's on the business cards, that is my cell phone number. So
That's a bad idea.
yeah, no, it probably is. But at the same time, I want to be reachable. I want to be obtainable, in any facet. So if a customer wants to, I've had people call that number and I go, hello, this is Josh. And then they say, hi, is this AGL? And I go, yeah, this is Josh, the owner. And they go, oh my God, I didn't know that that's what I was going to get. So, and I think that, tangibility is key also, to the business's growth, and, being able to, answer or shut stuff down, as soon as possible, or as soon as it hits, that front line. I think that's key, and being transparent to our fans and our community is key as well. So communication is key. I've been married 15 years, and I think communication is key on in any relationship, whether it's business or it's personal. So
100%. All right, I've got a very deep question. Why above ground level? Like, why AGL? Why the name?
No, that's a good question. So, first off, let me ask you guys a question because it's a podcast.
Okay.
Am I allowed to say a profanity?
Yeah, we'll duck it out.
Okay, great. So the original name of the business was not Above Ground Level. It did start off as Disc Flickers. And so there's a couple of things wrong with that, and you may see where I'm going with my initial question. And so there's people that do dye jobs and the stencils and the dye work, and someone actually took our logo, and we weren't a manufacturer back then. We were just a disc golf brand. We had our logo was on clothing. We'd get our disc stamped on other people's discs, and we would sell them. And so it was just a brand at that point, a company. And so someone with a dye job did a stencil dye, and they made it say and at that point, we thought we had to change the name. So not very, conducive. Also, not to mention, it kind of lend, credence towards the fact that it was primarily for forehand players as opposed to, all encompassing, a disc golf. So where AGL came from.
I'm still not over it.
Yes. So I was manager at Enterprise. And so we were working at my family and I, we had a house in Seaside, Monterey, California. And so I was working at the Monterey airport, and I just happened to hear it, 30,000 feet above ground level. And, I just, a little light bulb went off, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. So, I thought Above Ground Level was an amazing name. And, I searched it on Instagram and Facebook, and it hadn't been taken except by like a shoe company. So I figured, hey, AGL Disc was open and available. So I bought, all the domains like agldisc.com, .net, .org. And that way no one else could ever take it. And they all redirect to agldisc.com. So from there, though, we were thinking about plane names. We were going to go like, F fighter pilot, F-15 or something, B-52 or whatever. But there's a lot of other companies that have maybe flying objects. And even since then, there's been other companies that have come out and actually gone that route of going with plane names. And, cool for you. But we just thought we didn't want to step on any toes. And so big credit to my wife here. She actually had the idea with, why don't you do trees? They're on the disc golf course.
Trees.
Yeah. And so we thought it was an amazing theme, that had an endless possibilities with the naming convention. So you could, have so many different names. Nobody was doing trees or plants or anything like that. Well, actually, to be fully transparent, there was actually a company that did do the willow and the oak, but they discontinued those, and that company went out of business. And I think they did many other discs that had, nature style names, but it wasn't just tree themed. And so we were, I think, the first people to have that tree theme. And so we obviously can't use the name oak, but if we were to do like, a white oak or American oak or something like that, there's a couple different names that you could go with. So yeah, the possibilities though with trees are endless. We even play off of the ones with the kids and do the bonsai one, which we do the junior disc.
Yeah, I love
Uh,
that one.
yeah, so that one's really fun. Yeah. Yeah, it's been an amazing adventure. And so I've actually never named any of the discs. We actually let our team or our fans in our community name the discs. I actually don't pick out like what disc we're gonna make next. It's not like, hey, we need an overstable mid. I let you guys pick those and tell us what we need. But I really let the fans kind of steer the direction of the company. And I even let the team pick the team. So I actually, just joke around sometimes, but I tell people I just pack the boxes and I pay the bills. That's what I do.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's also how you do the flight numbers, right?
Yes. So I think we were the first people to kind of make it a little bit more open-ended and not just kind of arbitrarily, grab some numbers based on our throws or our maybe employees or, even our own team. But we use our team, we use our patrons, and then we use our customers that we do sell to. And so, for example, right now we do have a new mold coming out. We'll get to that at the end, but we're going to be selling some to our team, some to our patrons that support us through patreon.com, and then some of our fans that will sell as prototypes. And so this is a pre-release prototype that we'll sell with no flight numbers. And we have a simple Google form that, excuse me, is just, 4 numbers. And you tell us what you think speed, glide, and turn and fade are. And we will use that as an average and we'll put those in for the numbers. And we try to be, very honest and true with those to the point where if that average changes over time, because we leave that flight numbers form up on our website for, all time. And you can always go there if you buy a new disc and you think, hey, man, that one's flying a little bit more flippy. I think it has an extra -1 turn on it. So we'll change the entire actual flight numbers for that disc if we find that it's valid and true based on your guys's input.
That's so honestly, that was one of the things I wrote down was like, how the heck do you decide flight numbers? It's always been something that my brain has been trying to figure out. So you're saying other companies kind of rely on themselves to come up with them?
Yeah, for
Okay.
a lot of the part, I think that other companies are starting to adopt certain strategies that we may, roll out as kind of the initiators. But I think that a lot of times in businesses, as a business gets to a certain point, they may run out of like, what do we do in order to keep business going?
Yeah.
And so they look to some of the small guys. And I'm not saying like Anova is watching my, Instagram,
No.
but there is a possibility that someone on their team is, and then they throw it up the ladder, and next thing something that we're doing that is successful might be then adopted by another company. And not necessarily saying Anova again, it's just saying it might be tossed up that ladder, and it does, because if something is working for a small business, why wouldn't a bigger business try it and adopt it and see if it works for them as well? So it's just business 101. And now if you look at the converse, you see smaller businesses that start and sometimes they flop and flounder, and they're not necessarily around anymore. So don't necessarily follow what they're doing,
Yeah. That's awesome though that you ask the community, because I can definitely name a couple discs off my head that, like Josh, my husband, who can throw really far, he'll pick up a disc and be like, no way, it's not a 0.3. It flies more like a -2.1 or something. Like he'll come up with his own numbers, and that's really cool that you kind of will change it as you go, because it's how the community is feeling like that disc is flying, which makes it more accurate of a flight number, not just this is what we wanted, we're just putting the numbers on there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we've even had a customer just recently come in, purchase some discs, went to go play at De La, came back. We're about 15 minutes from De La Viega. He came back and he was like, wow, you have some of the most accurate flight numbers I've seen. And I was like, well, I don't even pick them, so great.
Woo!
Not on me. But yeah, no, it's nice to be able to sometimes take that almost responsibility off and spread that out in a way, because it is just me doing 99% of the work here. It's a one-man show. So I'm stamping the discs, I'm packaging the discs, I'm also putting them into the box and shipping them out to you guys. So we do a lot here, and I try my best to give you guys my best. So it's the fans in the community and their appreciation, and that that motivates me to just keep giving back. So it's just this like, who's gonna win? It's a Canadian standoff, as my dad used to say.
That's a good one. I like that.
When you're at a stop sign and like, who's the nicer person? And it's like, that's the Canadian standoff, right?
Yep.
I'm totally stealing that. I'm going to use
Yeah,
that
you
all the
can.
time.
That's a good one. I said that to a Canadian one time. He's like, yeah, that's true. It's pretty funny.
So earlier you mentioned like making a mold from scratch. What goes into that? What goes into making a new mold? Because you work with Gateway,
Mm-hmm.
and correct me if I'm wrong, the first disc was the Cypress, and that was like 3D printed.
Well, so what we did in order to make the Cypress, and the Cypress was not made with Gateway. This is a couple of years before we got with Gateway. So I was working with a friend here in San Francisco area who does 3D files in I think it's like CAD or STP files. And I'm pretty ignorant to that stuff. I've just learned a little bit about it. And he and I worked to design the Cypress from scratch. And we were calling and reaching out to many different manufacturers. I didn't actually think of Gateway at that time, but we had, I signed an NDA, so I'm not necessarily supposed to say the name, but we'll say, I can say where they're from, which is in Canada. And so it was a manufacturer in Canada. If I say that, most people know who it is. But that manufacturer, produced our mold. It costs about $20,000 to make the mold. And you're talking about a 2-part mold. And then you're then having to purchase the per disc cost as well. And we ordered 1,000 discs. So, all in all, you're in quite a bit for an investment at that point monetarily. And I haven't even got the discs back besides a few samples. And, we sent the first couple samples to the PDGA as well. Those failed, and we had to actually redo them before making that actual 1,000. But when we did make that 1,000 after we got, a pass or an approval from the PDGA for the Cypress, at that point, I ordered 1,000, had them shipped to me, and about 70% of them were actually overweight. And so, I called the manufacturer, and they basically said, oh, well, we think it was your mold and your design on the mold, and it actually makes it a lot heavier. And at that point, I didn't know anything about injection molding. And so I'm thinking like, well, can't you just make them lighter? There's got to be a way to, turn the knob down or whatever you got to do in order to get them lighter. And, now knowing stuff, there's blowing agents and all this stuff, different diameters. But there's a lot of things that go into how you can make a Frisbee golf disc lighter weight. And so I didn't know any of that. I didn't know that they weren't necessarily aware, or maybe they were just under the impression of producing and get it going. And so, they offered to retool the mold, and that actually cost me another $5,000.
Oh,
and so,
my goodness.
At this point, you're just like, wow, do I throw in the towel? This was a side project that, I could have bought a house at this point. It's a lot, I think at that point we just had my daughter. So, it's like, do we stop what we're doing? Yeah, it was a lot. And I think I talked with Seth Muncie, who's the owner of Disc Golf Strong. He's a good friend of mine, and we actually lived really close to each other in Seaside at the time. And so, he was like, how much are you in? And I'm like, well, this much. And he was like, well, it sounds like you're all in. And so we ended up continuing on and going down the rabbit hole and retooling the mold. And that's where the white the first runs were blue, and some of them are overweight. And we had a lot of them not even make it to market. And then the white ones, they actually did about 300 for me at a discount. And then I paid for another 200 white. So there's about 500 white ones out in the market, 1,000 blue, 500 white. That 500 white were the first time we retooled it. And so it wasn't as stable as that first run. And, you know, I lost a little bit extra money at retooling that mold. And I also feel like I lost a little bit of integrity because it wasn't necessarily what I wanted from the disc as well.
Yeah.
And so we ran through that 1,000 and that 500, and we put in another order for these pink ones. And we did a bigger order of 1,000 for these pink cypress, which would have been the third batch or the third run. And those ones, you know, did okay. But at that point, there were still like some wonky ones, some dented ones, and I just wasn't happy with the overall production that I was getting quality control wise. And as you know, Evan, you pointed out earlier, I've sent stuff back even to Gateway. And I come from, you know, a different background where manufacturing and quality control is key. And, you know, maybe I hold myself to some pretty tight standards in that regard. But I feel like that's only going to be better for my end consumer, or, you know, the person that's going to be throwing the discs. So I take a lot of pride in that quality control. And ultimately, I decided to part ways with the manufacturer at that point because Gateway started reaching out to me, and they complimented how we were able to penetrate the West Coast market in regards to social media and sales that is so predominantly, you know, covered with Innova and DGA, because we're in Central Coast. We're right in DGA's backyard.
Yeah.
So, you know, they have a strong presence here in Watsonville and in Scotts Valley and Santa Cruz and Monterey area. And so, you know, we're stepping on toes. And, you know, I don't necessarily like that, but we kind of moved to San Jose. My wife and I both born and raised in San Jose. And we had our warehouse in San Jose, which we had for quite some time. And that's where we started to grow and get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's where the pandemic hit. And I think at that point, people, when the pandemic hit, you know, they saw us as like, hey, these aren't just like some new guys kind of taking advantage of the green rush, you know, the gold rush, whatever you want to call it, for disc golf. You know, they've been in this for a while. They've been working hard. And I think that's why we got, you know, some credit and, you know, some maybe attention in that regard. And I'm very appreciative of the increase of sales and the increase of fans and the increase of team members in the community that overall has supported us, you know, since then and throughout the pandemic and still going. And, you know, like I said earlier, that's what motivates me to keep going and to keep pushing and to come out with new stuff, new discs, new stamps, to keep pushing the boundary on stamps. Like I've had some of the guys from Discraft and DGA reach out to me and like, why are you doing this? This goes against everything I know about stamping. Yeah. And you're just like, well, I don't know any better. I just bought this big stamp machine and I'm just having fun with it. So, you know, we're trying, and, you know, sometimes you make mistakes, and I might not use that stamp and I've wasted $100 on the metal. But I heard when I get to 500 pounds of magnesium, they could recycle it and burn it down and then make me some more stamps. So I'm saving up 500 pounds. I have about 200 pounds of magnesium right now.
And where do you keep this magnesium at?
I have file cabinets where basically there's probably about 2 stamps in each, you know, file folder, and they're just drawers and drawers and drawers full. It's been a wild ride, to say the least. You know, I'm very thankful and you know, appreciative of all the stuff that's, you know, been led my way. And, you know, we have a great community, my family, and the support that has been shown our way. It's just amazing. So I can't say thank you enough. And yeah, it just makes me want to work harder. It's insane.
Yeah, we appreciate all the effort that you've put in, because you've come up with great product, and like I said earlier, just so honest and transparent.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, brother.
So when you go and, like you said, the community says, hey, I'd love to see this kind of disc, how does that process work from there?
Yes.
Like Discraft seem in Innova, like they'll pump out all these discs, but they never tell you how they like, oh, we need an overstable this, so we start here. You're
you know, That's a great question. So obviously, I've learned a lot in regards to like parting line height, certain things, attributes that you can add to a disc that would either make it more stable or understable, right? And so when looking at certain attributes of what you're trying to make, you can definitely go down that rabbit hole in regards to what how far you want to go. We've created some really unique things. Now, on the other side of it is working with a company like Gateway, where Gateway has, been really, really smart about how he designs his molds, because he makes a lot of the putters, for example, are interchangeable with different bottoms. And, I won't talk smack and say other brands' names, but a lot of other brands may just use that exact same mold and sell it to another company. And then that company has the exact same mold, but they call it something different.
Yeah.
Whereas at least with Gateway, they are giving us a different variation of it. So, for example, I'm holding this disc in my hand that has the famous wizard bottom on it, but it has a top that I designed. And so I think that's really cool to be able to merge, that combo of two different types of discs, right? A stable wizard that everybody likes and our understable ponderosa top. And I think that's really cool when you can not necessarily have to worry about designing the whole disc. You might only have to worry about designing half the disc.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you can even, I've been able to take parts from disc combinations that he's never even put together before and go, hey, can we do this and this? And then that saves me money overall in regards to designing a mold, where I told you guys in the beginning, it cost me $20,000 to make a mold. If I can save that cost and not have to spend $20,000, and I can get a disc out to market sooner for my fans, for my customers, that they're looking for an overstable mid, well, let's maybe do this with this. And I don't have to spend anything on a mold, but more just time. And, time also consists of me paying for Gateway. I usually pay for the plastic, and I pay for the 2 employees that are going to be working for 8-hour shifts. So I'm basically paying for 16 hours and all the plastic that goes in. Now, we might get 800 discs, we might get 500 discs, we might get 1,000 discs. So technically that per disc cost does vary. And that's an agreement that we have with Gateway. But realistically, I think that's a fair thing to do when you are trying stuff out. Mm-hmm. So I'm paying for time, yes. But now we just tried this disc out with the Ponderosa top and the Wizard bottom. And I think it's going to be a phenomenal disc that I may even switch over to for my putting putter. And I'm really excited about that. So I think there can be some really, really positive things about working with a manufacturer like Gateway, and how Dave is like actually a certified genius. The way that he builds his molds are just super unique, and they can be interchangeable with other ones, which I think lends credence to why he's had so many other companies. And I feel like sometimes some of those brands may have not been as successful, but at the same time, it takes a lot of stuff. It takes like they say, when you have a kid, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the same with a business. I think you really do need to have a lot of moving parts and a lot of people that you lean on for support. And so I do, like I said, I've taken my hat off, and I'm not good at a lot of stuff. So, we lean on a guy who's our events coordinator. I lean on a guy who's really good at social media and marketing. And I let those people that are good at what they do be really good at what they do. I can encourage that. I can develop and support them and make them feel even better about what they do. And I think as a boss, that's what a good boss should be doing. And all I do is the grunt work, that's what I should be doing. I take out the trash. Well, no, Ava helps me do that sometimes. Ava's my 11-year-old.
This sounds awesome. Like I guess I've thought about it, but very just kind of like, yeah, they just got to make a mold and it's expensive. But like hearing really and truly how much goes into it, it's just wild. I mean, how did you even get with Gateway in the first place?
So yeah, like I said, after the Cypress 1, 2, and 3 batches, they kind of reached out to me and they were like, we love what you're doing and we love what you're, how you're penetrating the West Coast. And I go, oh, cool.
You're like, thanks.
Yeah. And they were like, would you like to work with us and, maybe come out with a putter or two? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, wow, this is awesome. So, at that point too, we hadn't necessarily landed on, recycled or, with the mission statement of like wanting to be the greenest disc golf company. At that point, our mission statement was definitely like being tree oriented and tree themed. But I don't even think, we had the idea of giving the tree seed out yet. And so that came probably right after when we got with Gateway and we really started pumping out the next 2 discs, which were Madrone and Manzanita. They share the same top, but then the bottoms are different. One is a beaded bottom and one is a beadless bottom. And so, it really basically kind of landed down to when I have a customer in front of me and I get to go, hey, this is a preference. They fly almost identical, but it's really, do you like feel or do you like this feel? They have the same top, but just a different bottom. And so, that was a huge, segue and bouncing board off of being able to say, hey, we have this driver. And yes, it's kind of hit or miss because of that manufacturer, but these putters are solid. And Gateway is really known for making solid putters. And so,
definitely.
Yeah, we had a really good relationship going from there, and they quickly followed it up with, hey, do you want to make a mid-range to to at least have a lineup? And you got your putters and you got your driver, and now you need a mid. And so we quickly followed it up with the Magnolia. And I think at that point, my wife had the idea of like, hey, how about when we sell a disc, we give out a tree seed along with it. So if you buy the Magnolia, you get a Magnolia tree seed, or if you buy a Madrone, you get a Madrone tree seed, or, a Cypress tree seed, and so forth. And so, that's where we started to kind of develop that theme. And then, we started talking with Dave at Gateway and going like, I remember he made a batch of Madrones for us. And he was so proud that, it was made with like 40-50% recycled material, and the rest of it was regrind from some of his old Wizards. And that's when it hit me like a ton of bricks as well. And I was just like, well, why are you even yourself not advertising this or promoting this? Why are you not using this in your marketing, where you're highlighting this fact that you're saying, hey, we do this and nobody else is really doing that? So you literally take discs that, either were, didn't fully conform or produce well in the injection molding. And, it's like half a disc or, part of it's missing or whatever, excess flashing, whatever. And so they have a grinder and they grind it up, and then they take that polymers and they use it to make new discs. And
it's so cool.
Yeah. And so I was like, why are you not promoting this? This needs to be talked about. And, like I said, it hit me like a ton of bricks, where we could definitely use that with our tree theme to promote, hey, what we want to do is be the greenest disc golf company. And so at that point too, we were at a warehouse. And so we started working with this company that does zero waste recycling. And they basically come and like pick up all my garbage, all my cardboard, which primarily most of my garbage is cardboard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you got a lot of cardboard.
Yeah. And so we definitely work with this company, and we make sure that nothing ends up in a landfill. And so when we can ensure that all the plastic that's going into the disc is either recycled, like every single disc is made with recycled plastic. Now, that percentage of how much plastic is recycled may vary. On putters, it's usually like 20 to 40%. On some of the premium plastic, it could be 40 to 60%. For example, this last batch of Locust that we did, though, was 85% recycled material, and the rest was regrind. Yeah, some of the hemp ones have sustainable resource hemp fibers ground up and mixed in with regrind, and the hemp fiber polymers mixed with that at a 10%, and then we're using 5% regrind. So, I mean, it's just amazing to think about how much we're reducing and reusing. And I think I kind of grew up with the Captain Planet era, and recycling isn't just about the recycling part of things. And I know in this industry and in recycling in general, that term can be a very touchy or technical term. And, the aspect of recycling is pulling stuff out of the landfill or out of the garbage and then using that material. And that is what we do in every single disc. But again, it's to a certain percentage. The other aspect, I think, of recycling that you might not necessarily be able to call in the technical term recycling is reducing and reusing what ends up in a landfill. And so I think that's a big part of it that, might not necessarily get looked at or touched on. But we're taking, like I said, old discs. I even have team members that are sending me other brands and they're like, hey, Josh, I don't throw this anymore. And I had this idea a long time ago where I talked about it with another YouTuber and social media guy, and we were going to start a company together. And that's been a hit or miss kind of situation, but we won't go down that one. And so the bottom line is that, we've been doing this for a while, and also with the hot stamping, where we take the leftover foil, I just grabbed some here, and we actually will grind that up and use that to make some of our metal flake. And so,
wow.
yeah, it's insane, and I just did a study or read a study that someone from a metal company that we work with, he actually did when he was in college in like the late 80s. And he goes, oh yeah, certain foils are actually biodegradable. And I was like, wow, this is insane. So it's insane to think about how much and how far you can go down that rabbit hole in regards to recyclability and sustainability. And I think that if we can do it at our level, our small, gross sales level, why are the bigger companies not doing it? And like I said earlier, you start to see now some of them are pushing it again. Now some of them are coming out with recycled or regrind lines. And I'm happy. I'm glad that we're causing enough, ripples in the pond to, make it into a wave, and people are starting to react to it. Because I think that's gotta be where we go. We make so much plastic. How could we not think about how detrimental that is to the environment in the long scheme of things?
A great point. Yeah.
We already walk on nature too dang much, every time a human walks in nature, we're detrimental to that path, that step that we took. And I wanted to start a company where we try to counter that with the disc golf courses, and especially with the tour, because you have 1,500 spectators on one course, and that's, just think about the land, and it's how it's like all those people walking on it, and it's just nobody's thinking about that, the aftermath of the courses after a big event like that. And so I saw a picture of a tee pad, and someone took a picture and they commented, why should someone have to step up to the tee pad? That's poor design. And I go, well, that course is like 20 years old. It's not like that was designed that it eroded away. So, but that's something that I think, as a newcomer might look at that and go, oh, that's awful. And so if we want to be held at that same level of golf, we kind of need to start looking at our courses that way too, not just our plastic manufacturing, but our courses. And I think that's the step that I want to take, and working with Dave at Gateway, he's a Hall of Fame disc golf course designer. He's, I think, the second most, or design as many, the second many a number of courses, the highest number of courses, whatever, second place for the highest number, excuse me. And so I got to work with him. I've got to, design courses with him, and, just learning a tidbit of that, mountain of knowledge is amazing. And so, looking at courses, and even coming back to my home course of De La Viega, and realizing that it's an amazing course, but could it have been designed better? I think yes. And you see how the Masters Cup actually lay out a different format and a different path for, hole 1 through 20, because it flows better, and there's a loop track to it where, a lot of people don't realize how, if you do a single loop track where you're on hole 19, you're furthest away from your car or the parking lot. But if you have ever noticed that there's 2 loop tracks where you do hole 1 through 9 and you're back at the parking lot, and then you do 10 through 11, maybe it's even off a little bit by like 1 through 10 and, whatever, but you come back to the parking lot, you can either do it on your lunch break or you can get more food or, extra water or something like that. But, I think that's something that's smart course design, especially if you're designing that course in a public or a county park situation. So, are you designing it for what type of play? That's another, whole nother ball game too. So yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine.
No.
I completely understand. With my job, I run tryouts every single weekend in the spring. And I remember vividly this past one in New Mexico, like I had I finished my field first, so I was cleaning up, making sure my other fields were running fine for my evaluators, and I just remember seeing all the trash and the water bottles and the left behind face masks and the left behind just everything. And it's kind of just like dang, like why aren't we teaching kids to kind of, hey, we need to look behind, and why aren't we picking all this stuff up? Because now we're making adults who do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sucks. Someone else is going to do it. That's the mentality. And I try to teach my daughter that, first thing she does when she gets here, she does take out the trash. I try to get her to walk the parking lot and like, hey, because we got some neighbors who build stuff, and I'm like, let's make sure there's no nails or anything and someone's going to run over something. So, she's really good. And teaching her that responsibility at a young age, and she grew up with the business and having kind of that appreciation for her own stuff, but being able to deal with customers, and sometimes you might not be in the mood, but you gotta, hey, or you're eating lunch and hey, you gotta
definitely
gotta go and turn it on. And so I think she's learning, a lot at such a young age, and I'm very proud of her. She's, she'll walk you down the aisle and hold your hand and tell you all about the discs, and how to show you how to throw it in our in the front area where we have a practice basket and stuff. And she's amazing. So we call her the warehouse manager. So watch out for Ava Jones.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, she's really good. She taught me how to fill orders when I was over there for the Masters Cup and hanging out. So she walked me through how to fill some orders that had come in.
I love that.
Yeah. She's PDGA number 99107. So watch out.
Gotcha.
All right.
Not even 100,000. Yeah, we got it when she was real young.
Yeah, it's wild to think about how much the boom happened. And like, I mean, Evan and I were both part of the COVID boom, but it's just wild to hear PDGN number before the boom and where we're at now.
So yeah, what are you guys?
137250.
You don't start with 13 at that point. It's like 131, or what was it?
137. Don't know how to say it without doing it that way.
1677725.
166,000. You're almost 100,000 over me. So
that's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, I mean, and I got mine really late too, because I didn't, think about playing in tournaments. It was just more for fun and with friends and stuff like that. And I think the first tournament I ever played in was the St. Jude's event down here in Monterey, where, you had all the big names and everybody. And I didn't know that, there was like Open and Am. And I think I played Am 1, and I was probably like novice, and, the juniors were probably beating me. So, I think I got dead last, but then someone dropped out. So I was like, thank God I didn't get dead last.
I'm in.
Yeah. But no, it was a learning experience. And it was amazing. I got to have a bunch of, that's where I met Feldberg for the first time. And then next thing you know, the few years afterwards, he was staying at my house, and all the guys were coming over to the house. And I think I had all the pros at my house at one point out in Seaside. So, it's been an amazing adventure, and I've got to meet some, incredible people throughout this. And so I try to stay appreciative and, in good spirits throughout it all, and, just take it all in one day at a time,
Yeah, I mean, it's been, so Ava's 11, and you mentioned that you had her, so 12 years AGL's been a company?
Yeah, that's where, we started manufacturing. I think it was 2014, 2015 with our Canadian manufacturer. And then I think I started working with Gateway in like 2016, 2017. And so, maybe those years are maybe a year off, but yeah, it's been a little bit.
That's
When we
awesome.
start manufacturing. Yeah.
That's just crazy. And it's amazing to hear all of the different things that you've kind of developed in your head over the sustainability, not only your company, but the sport. And we like to say that disc golf is really sustainable. But then you mentioned the Pro Tour. I never thought about the spectators and how that impacts the course. With a lot of these,
Definitely.
like our Hall of Fame is in a state park in Georgia. When they do a major, what does that do to that state park? I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah, I mean, so just the water bottles I saw at the last Masters Cup, they put out, cases and cases and cases of water bottles, and single-use water bottles are awful, and that's what litters the oceans and stuff. So, that's why we work with like Fill It Forward, and we started working with other companies like One Tree Planted and Tree Nation, and we're trying, I think, to combat and offset as much as we can, and give back in our own way, shape, and form. And so I think that if we can do those kinds of things, I think like you can even see the Pro Tour, they could do a big partnership. And I don't know if they were working. I think Jesse from Trash Panda was even trying to do something with them with Fill It Forward. So I don't know if that had gone through or not, but I hope so, because that would be a huge step in the right direction for the Pro Tour and just minimizing the overall waste, which is huge. Yeah.
Definitely. To kind of bring it back to the disc manufacturing, something that I thought about when you were talking about the different plastics and how they try different regrinds and different recycled. So when like you have a really flexy, I think the flexi discs are kind of becoming the latest trend. Why doesn't that have to get like reapproved? Does it have to get reapproved by the PDGA? Because it's almost like plastics make the disc fly differently.
Yeah, actually, they will approve it if it's flexible. They will deny it if it is too firm and too stiff. And so, yeah, I think it's a crazy subject, and I may be put on the fire here, but I'll say a pretty I guess direct argument. I think that the PDGA Technical Standards Committee should be changed in a lot of ways. If you look at golf, they don't send every golf club to the PGA to get tested to go, oh, does it fall within the specs? No, they don't do that. They just have set specs, and everyone must conform to that. And I think that's different. And as opposed to, where it's like the worst sale in history, where you send them 3 discs and you pay them $300. Like, wait, what?
Wait, so say that again. Hold on, I'm confused.
Yeah. So when we approve a disc, we have to send 3 discs into the PDGA, and we have to send them 3 discs that are usually flexi. If we sent them discs that are too firm or something, then they'll probably deny it. But if we send them discs that are flexi, they will most likely approve it. And yeah, you send them 3 discs plus you pay them $300.
Because you're paying for them to get, unfortunately, that makes sense. That's so weird, though.
Yeah, but you don't see, TaylorMade or those guys doing that for the golf, side of things. So I think, it's different, and certain things that they're even testing, like I said, then a manufacturer might go make a firm, and you're like, wait, is that then therefore PDGA approved? Should we be testing variants at that point? So they want you to, but then that's another $300. And so most companies are not doing something like that. They're just having one, from the first batch sent in, and not sending one from every single batch or every single plastic variant. And so that's why I think it's just, when you make something where you have even 2 plastics with 3 flexes, you're talking there's 6 variants, right? So, is times $300, you're $1,800 in at this point. So is that everybody's doing. I don't see anybody doing that. So I think that's where it's a really, really touchy subject. You look at even stamping, which we talked a little bit about earlier. If the stamp doesn't say PDGA approved on it and it's a custom stamp, is that disc PDGA approved? That's a good question.
That's a good question. That's a good one.
I don't even know, and so and then there's a lot of people that are out there stamping discs, not myself, but I stamp discs, but I'm technically considered a manufacturer. I've been hearing that if you stamp discs and you have like your own little mini stamp machine and you stamp your own disc on the bottom, is that make it, disqualified? I don't know, so those are questions that, the PDGA makes it a little bit tough in the gray area. And we just do our best. We try to produce stuff that, falls within their parameters. I try to follow them as, like I said, conform standards. And so when we submit something, I try to submit it to be within those standards. And that's all I can do. And that's where what we did with the Locust, with just recently, we had a disc that I felt like, could I probably have just put it out to market without telling the PDGA? Yes. But I made a change. Yeah, I made a change to it. And so I wanted to do the transparent, honorable thing. And so I paid $300 and sent 3 more in and got them PDGA approved. And so that's how that disc is going to be going forward. And people really like it. So it's going to be just called the Locust. Now, when we resubmitted it, we had to submit it as the Locust X. So it was a new version of it, but we're still just going to call it the Locust on the stamp because I probably won't bring back the old one. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's just the Locust. So it's a really weird situation with the PDGA Technical Standards Committee, and you just kind of do your best and say please and thank you, and you send your 3 discs and you pay your money, and you put your hands up and you hope you get an approval, and you go from there. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're waiting on our approval for this new disc that we have called the Acacia, and we sent the 3 discs in and the money, and so we're just kind of waiting on them. Hopefully it gets approved.
That's crazy. Do you think the format that you suggested of these are the specs, stay within them, do you think that would open up the sport to more technological progress? Because then, you see it in sports like Formula One, where they say, this is what you got to do. These are the framework. And if someone comes out with a car that's just dumb quick, then you see everybody else kind of follow that. And if there's something that's too crazy, they will go, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's not what we intended. It is within the rules, but they peel it back. And that's how they get faster and faster. Could you see something like that in disc golf of?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Even in golf, if where it comes down to weighted putters, and then where the weight goes and how the weight is placed, and there's so many things that you can do, but then you come out with a new thing and someone has to go, oh, whoa, let's take a look.
Whoa.
Does that conform to these standards? And I'm sure that's where a actual technical standards committee should be coming in. That's what they're, where it's unbiased and multiple, heads come in. But as of right now, I think it's just one person, and it's one person for the last 25, 30 years. And he just, and don't get me wrong, he has an amazing collection, and he takes amazing photos, and he has the history of every single disc, which is incredible for our sport. I'm not denying what he's doing or discrediting it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just suggesting that there could be a different way in which we go about approving or denying, or necessarily conforming to the standards for manufacturing. And it might make it a little easier for a manufacturer to come up with other molds, yes, and other, ideas. And then, I think we would be able to have other variants of plastic or small variants on the disc that we might not be seeing right now, or could be seeing if was given the chance to.
That probably also make the sport more accessible from a manufacturing side, because you're already 20,000 deep trying to make a mold, and then on top of that you're having to submit 3 discs that you purchased and $300, I mean, for a
It adds
small
up.
manufacturer, that could be backbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've had 12 molds. You do the math, you know.
Right.
No.
Yeah, 13 actually. We discontinued the Cypress. So, you know, and this Acacia will be the 14th. So, yeah, it adds up, you know. And then where in the stamping side of things, each mold, being that they do have a different width of diameter and whatnot, you actually would need to get a mount or a support or a nest. We call it a lot of different things. But this support you would need to get would be fitting the inside of each of those diameters, and each one of the discs have a different one. And so when I went out to Gateway in Missouri, for example, I saw, you know, 14, 15 different nests or supports, because they have about 14, 15 different molds. And I go, wow, how much did you get? You know, each one of those $300. And I designed this universal mounting support nest, and it cost me about $1,800, and it works for all of them. Yeah, just saying. I mean, you know, I don't have to. I can switch molds in a heartbeat. Evan's been out here; he's seen it, and so you can just go from one mold to the next. Now, if you're doing a registration type stamp, that's a little different. But you know, if you add all that up, this $300 per the PDJ mold, now you got to spend $300 on the nest. You're talking $600 just to come up with stuff that are operational.
Yeah, just basic.
Yeah, to produce that disc and get it to market. Not to mention the foil on the disc itself. So, yeah, but that becomes, you know, negligible at some point. Not unless you're buying as much foil as we are.
Is that all foil behind you? I know we're a podcast and you can't see, but is that all foil behind you? What is all that on the wall?
Those are just pre-cut down to 3 inches. If you want to see the big case of foil, that's the table.
Oh, cool.
And we have 120 different types of foil. So, yes, we have a lot of foil options and patterns and choices. We purchase from, you know, almost, I think, every single foil manufacturer. So we have like all of the foils.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's definitely something different that some companies do, is that the foil is just another aspect of the kind of disc, the color of the disc and everything. So that's really awesome that you guys take pride in that and want to do different things.
So every single stamp that I do, I hand cut the foil, whether it's a single stamp, double stamp, triple stamp, whatever. If it's just a one, you know, single stamp, I still hand cut that foil. And what that does, being that we have 120 foils, you know, let's say I order 1,000 discs, I'm getting 5, 6 colors or something like that. You know, we probably actually only pull out 100 of each color for retail, and we put some aside for wholesale and so forth. But my point is that I can basically guarantee you that if you go through any of my racks over here and you were to grab those blue locusts that I just happen to be looking at, that there's a bin of like 50 in there, 60 maybe. Every single one has a different foil on it.
Every single one.
Yep.
Wow,
I've seen him do it.
So cool.
Kim, this man is a foil wizard. If you want to see like how like in depth his knowledge is of foils, go to my Instagram. When I was out there for Masters Cup, he was helping one of the teammates do her personal stamp for a fundraiser, and there was a lot of dropout, which is where the foil doesn't like completely stick to the disc, so there's like a hole in the stamp.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh was showing us how to repair that.
So cool. I love that kind of stuff.
You know, it's funny is I failed art, and if my art teacher knew like what I was doing and all this arts and crafts stuff I do every day, I mean, she would roll over. I mean, it's incredible. I don't consider it art. I'm myself considering, you know, it to be OCD and, you know, just exact and patterns. And, you know, I just grab each one. I don't know how that's artistic. You know, I don't really, you know, plan anything out until I'm doing a double registration or a triple registration. I've started to get a little bit better about planning accordingly for those, but single stamps, I just kind of wing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, have some fun with it.
Yeah, we do. We have a lot of fun stamping, probably too much fun. Yeah.
And now your stock stamp for the Locust is a double register, right?
Yes. So going forward, we're going to continue that on with all discs. So every single disc going forward is going to be our stock stamp is going to be a double registration. And, it's also increasing the size to pretty much the max size I can go on my machine, which is about a 6-inch kind of square or circle.
What
Yeah.
is double registration? I feel like I know what it is, like if I can use my context clues, but what is double registration?
Well, I mean, I was going to show you, but yeah, well, this is a podcast. So,
you can still show me. I'm a visual person.
well, so registration stamps, what that means is kind of like screen printing, where you have the disc in it's going to get stamped once with one stamp, and then you would take the stamp out, put another stamp in without moving that disc, stamp it again, and it creates a layered look or a layered pattern, 3D, however you want to say it.
Okay.
But you could do with different colors and multiple colors or multiple patterns to create really, really unique artistic, designs on a Frisbee. Yeah.
That's
pretty cool.
So it's right on top of each other?
Well, or yes, it could be, or it could be just so close next to each other. Let's say you're, coloring in, we did one where it was a crow who kind of, was like a ninja and had like a sensei kind of uniform on. And so like each part of his, kind of sensei outfit was, or ninja outfit, whatever you want to call it, was, different colors. And then the black was all the accents and the lines to it. And so, it created a really kind of popping, color image. And, it takes right now, the way that we do it, being that my stamp machine only has a single head, what I just explained kind of made it sound easy, but, we're talking
Super
about,
easy.
2 inches of clearance. And, when you have to do 50 or 100 discs and they all need this single stamp, let's say there's a 3 triple registration stamp, that means there's 3 individual stamps that create one image, right? So if you were to just stamp, image 1, it might not look like anything, but if you stamp 1, 2, and 3, you're like, whoa, now I see everything, and it's a full image. So each layer adds a different part to the image. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing. And if you don't do it right, it can look really, really bad. And so you have to be very intricate and lined up, perfectly. Otherwise you just wasted 50 or 100 discs. So yeah. Thankfully I haven't had to do that ever. So
thank goodness. Evan went and showed me a disc. What is this run? What is this?
This is the Magnolia. This is the first triple register that you guys did at in mass, right? You did 100 of these?
Yes. Yeah, we did 100 of those. So you can see the trees are blue. The V-dub, bus is silver. And then the black is all of the line or the accents,
Oh, that makes so much sense. Okay. All right. I'm on board. I'm here.
Yeah, it takes 3 different metal plates or stamps to do that. And, you have to have them just right. Otherwise, that blue wouldn't be inside the black lines of the.
Yes.
Yes.
My brain goes to this graffiti artist that posts on Instagram all the time, and he has different layers that he'll put up a new sheet and he'll just do the blue, and then he'll put up another sheet and then he'll just do black, but he has to match up the sheet perfectly.
Yes.
Oh, all right. I'm here.
So
I understand.
That's registration painting, whatever, where you're basically keeping something in one fixed position while you're changing the media, I guess, and then adding a different layer to that, where then once you're done with all of the layers, you'll have a complete artwork that is a finished design. And so I think we're maybe one of 5 companies right now that's doing registration type stamps, besides Jake Hunter and Hunter Hot Stamp, who I hold the highest regard for. He's like the stamp god in all of our hot stamping worlds. He's the man behind the curtain. So yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
Oh.
You guys should get Jake Hunter on here too to talk about stamping. Yeah.
I'll write that down. Write that down.
Yeah, Jake Hunter from Hunter Hot Stamp. He's an amazing individual. He works really hard. He's an outside stamper that stamps for multiple companies, and he does intricate 2, 3, 4, 5 registration layered stamps. And
Wow.
yeah, he does insane stamps. I can't even express. I mean, when you guys see mine and you think mine are good, he just adds a whole nother level of flair to it. And so, my wife told me, and someone else told me that I guess they were talking about my stamps on Reddit or something. And then I said, I don't go on Reddit, but I feel like, hey, that's a good thing. I'm happy it was positive. And if we're able to even be held in the same caliber or in the same realm, I'm super ecstatic. So Jake Hunter is just amazing, and his stuff is I can't comprehend how he does some of it. So yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tim's on Instagram right now looking at it. I assume.
Yeah, this is so cool.
The Mad Stamper, I gave him that name. Yeah.
This is so cool. Wow.
Yeah. And his you'll see some F cancer one. His wife is going through cancer. So yeah, any support his way is amazing. We try to have him do some stuff for us when he can. But he's always pretty busy actually, which is good for him and his family. But yeah, his work is just that to me is art, where I just, like I said, I grab a color and go to the next one. He is a true artist. But he grew up with, hot stamping. His dad worked on some of the first hot stamp machines that got sold to some of the first big manufacturers. And so, his family comes from a hot stamping industry, and, that's just what he knows. And he's just really, really good at what he does. Whereas I had to come into this a little late in the game and, had to kind of do guest test and revise and touch the hot stove and learn the hard way kind of a method.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, we really appreciate all of your insight. I've
This
learned
is
a
so
lot,
cool.
and I've hung out with you multiple times, and every time I talk to you, I learn something completely new. But we wanted to give you the opportunity to promote everything that you've got going on. I know you've got all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I think right now the biggest one is so first off, let me ask you, when does this air, Evan?
Friday.
Oh, okay, cool. So I won't go too crazy then, because I have some stuff that's like a little bit later on down the rabbit hole. But big one is going to be Friday. We're going to be doing a team drop and a patron drop. So if you are one of our patron members, or if you're one of our team members like Evan here yourself, you can grab one of our, here, I'll show you. I just stamped these. Yay, the big Team AGL.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Huge Team AGL stamps. And we did these on the new Acacia, which is a pre-release prototype. And this is the one where I was talking about, has the famous wizard bottom and then our famous Ponderosa top on it. So I'm really excited about that putter because I think it could be a game changer for us. We don't have anything right now currently with a big bead on it. And all we have is a madrone with a micro bead, and it's our only beaded putter right now. So I'm very excited about the wizard coming into the fold with the Ponderosa, as it's a big bead. It's very comfortable in the hand. I think everybody in the world has probably, that's into disc golf at least, has probably held a wizard or knows someone that's held a wizard. And, they can definitely attest to how comfortable a wizard feels in the hand. And then the Ponderosa top is actually really nice as well. But the Pondy top adds a little bit more understability to the wizard, which is pretty stable as a putter. And I think it's just the straightest flying disc or putter I've ever thrown. It is straight as an arrow. I mean, I think the numbers might end up being a little bit fast, like a 3 speed, and it might be like a 4 glide, and it might be like a -1-1. But obviously we're going to let you guys all decide that, all of our fans and our team members and our community, our Patreon members. And so we hope that, yes, when we put this to market, I think for the retail customers, they can purchase a prototype stamp of this new Acacia on, I think it'll be the following Monday. So your guys's episode here will air Friday, and it'll be the following Monday. So yeah, Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, we'll have these acacias drop for everybody, and they're pre-release prototypes, and they'll have a prototype stamp on them. There's going to be, I think, 3 or 4 colors to choose from, decent amount of weights, decent amount of flexes, some medium to soft. I'm not sure if we got any that were too, super, super firm or anything, but I think the acacia might be the putter that makes me switch. And I've been putting with a Madrone for the last 6-7 years, and before that I was putting with a Judge and then a Wizard. And so it'll be really nice to kind of circle back around to a Wizard that feels really, really nice in my hand, but is a little straighter. And I think on my last Facebook Live, everyone was kind of cheering me on to do a putt here in the warehouse. And the first putt I made, I tried to go right down the aisle, and I made definitely a 30-footer, probably a little bit more, but
heck yeah.
So, yeah, it felt real nice. And I'm really digging this putter. I think this will be a game changer for us. I think it'll kind of round off our putter lineup. I think that's going to be it for me right now for probably the next couple years for putters. We'll have we have a Madrone Manzanita. They share the same top, but a different bottom. We have the Baobab and Douglas Fir. They share the same bottom with a different top. And now we have our Ponderosa and the Acacia that share the same top with different bottom. And I think they all complement each other really, really well. And now we're going to be able to focus on more mid-ranges and drivers and really expand our lineup into a kind of fully fledged company. And I'm really excited about what's to come. So thank you guys. I appreciate all the time.
Thank you so much for coming out. This was awesome. That was such a great conversation. I love bringing people on who can just educate us. Like sometimes I feel like with a podcast, you're more talking to the audience, but like that was so nice to have someone talk to us and just let us know how it works or how they make it work. So that was such a great conversation.
Yeah, like I said during the interview or at the end there, legitimately every time I talk to Josh, I learn something new. He's got so many stories. He's got so much experience in this industry. He learns a lot on his own, just trial by fire, which is really impressive. And he's also not afraid to reach out to people. Like he was talking about Dave McCormick from Gateway and all the stuff he's learned from him. It is incredible. And $20,000 for a mold? 20,000?
Honestly, yeah, that's about the price I thought it was going to be.
I had no idea. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
And
wild.
It's no wonder it's hard for those smaller manufacturers to survive.
Yeah, I get it. I do get it.
Yeah, so if you get an opportunity, support AGL for sure, and support small manufacturers because they've got to work really damn hard. They've got small margins with some big upfront if they want to if you have a small manufacturer in your area or that you kind of like and you wish I wish they just had more discs, I wish they had more options, you got to support them in order for them to be able to afford to give you more options. So just keep that in mind.
100%.
Well, that wraps it up for today. You can find Josh on Instagram and on Facebook at AGL Discs, Kim on Instagram at Kim the Great, and me at Evan Amstutz DG. Remember to follow the pod on Instagram at Mediocre Disc Golf Pod and on Twitter at Mediocre DG Pod. If you want to support us, buy our shirts on mythicdiscgolf.com and listen to us every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. If you enjoyed the show, leave us 5 stars in a review. And if you didn't, still give us 5 stars and tell us why. We know we aren't perfect because we are mediocre. Have a good night.